All right, Red Faction. Guess what? Bungie decided to, mess with me today, and we're like, we're gonna drop this 2 days before the frickin' a day before the dev live stream, and 2 days before their Twid. Which I mean, it makes sense because normally Twids come out on Thursday, so the article's coming out on Tuesday, or well, Wednesday would be a thing, but they decided to drop it today. So this is what's coming: changes to your abilities in Renegades. Dear Guardians, Combat Team here with the final sandbox preview article for Renegades. This one will focus on the player's ability, specifically buffing the player abilities. Below, you'll find a dozen of juicy abilities, a handful of PvP only nerfs, and one PvE nerf. There are a lot of changes here, so to avoid turning this into a novel, we're going to keep the commentary light and let the changes speak for themselves. In addition to these, we have more exciting ability changes planned for Shadow and Order release. Okay, enough preamble. Let's start with the Hunter changes. Our friend Crow asked us to say thank you to all the hunters out there providing feedback to the Hunter endgame viability. We hear you loud and clear. Of the three Guardian classes, Hunters have the most ability changes coming in Renegades and more in the future release. So, here's changes to Gunslinger. With Golden Gun, Deadshot and 6-shooter, the super, increased damage against non-boss combatants by 15, increased damage against boss combatants by 26. This change removes the disparity between boss damage and non-boss damage. Golden Gun projectiles will now scorch targets, 40 at base, 10 with the increased stack fragment. Gun fired in Well of Radiance, Golden Gun now counts as radiant increased. Wait. When fired in a Well of Radiance, Golden Gun damage counts as radiant for increased damage. Blade Barrage, the super, has increase of 39% damage against combatants. Oh. Proximity, explosive knife, weighted knife, lightweight knife, and knife trick melee. Increased damage versus red bar enemies by 50%. Increased damage of 36% against other ones. Lightweight knife increased the crit multiplier to 1.5. Acrobatic dodge, now passive energy regen in PvE by 112%. This cooldown now matches Gambler's dodge, allowing you to buff your fire team more often. Gunpowder Gamble, shooting the dynamite mid-air, now has increased damage of 50%, 5% in PvP, expands the radius, and creates sub-munitions. Oh, shit. Okay. Void, Night Stalker, Shadow Shot. Tether source now attaches to combatants on direct impact. Increase the weaken effect to 35. Note, Deadfall Tether is now the strongest weaken in the game. Now immediately weakens and suppresses enemies in an area of effect on impact. Mobius Quiver, the one where you can shoot multiple. While super is active, dealing increased damage now increases the power of subsequent Shadow Shot attacks and bow weapons. Note, this puts a bar on your screen that charges as you deal damage. When charged, your final shot or the final two shots with Orpheus Rig now deals significantly increased damage, turning into the strongest, highest damage super in game at 127 max. And an increased duration. And Orpheus Rigs makes it to. Why? Why, Punk? Why? So if you have now Orpheus Rigs is coming back. Ugh. Smoke Bomb Melee. Increase the lifetime of projectile after sticking to a surface to 9 seconds. Move the lingering smoke time to 2 seconds. Oh, thank God. Reduce the screen effect intensity and duration while in enemy smoke. Reduce the damage against players to 16. After seeing how the previous Smoke Bomb changes in PvP, we're shifting Smoke Bomb back to being more of a misdirection tool than a damage tool. Being hit directly by an enemy smoke will be less frustrating as a victim, while allowing to be more effective as a trap or decoy for the user. Oh boy, thank God. What? What? Oh, okay, cool. Darkstrider's changes are light. Storm's Edge passive energy regeneration has been increased to 25% at passive. And Tempest Strike does less damage to players. Okay, cool. 2 Revenant changes, but they're impactful. Shatter Dive. Shattering stasis crystals or enemies now grants frost armor. Note, any shatter grants full stacks in PvE and only 2 stacks in PvE. Silence and Squall versus combatants. Increased damage to 36. Ugh. Gross. Whittle Silk, the aspect. Looking at a grapple tangle for a short time now overrides your grenade ability with a free non-offensive grapple. Note, this allows you to give grapple capabilities to fellow guardians who don't have strand or grapple equipped. Also works for the Navigator exotic trace rifle. Grapple tangles create near the ground now rise to the air shortly after creation. Grapple tangle's base lifetime is increased to 20 seconds. Hitting an enemy with a grapple melee that wasn't free now creates a grapple tangle. Wait, what? So now, looking at a grapple tangle for a short time now overrides your grenade ability with a free non-offensive grapple. So now you can throw... So wait. If you look at it, you can take your grenade out, and it's going to be giving you a free non-offensive grapple. This allows you to give grapple capabilities to fellow guardians who don't have strand or grapple equipped. This also works for the Navigator exotic trace rifle. So, does that mean if there's someone on strand running Whittle Silk, which I'm gonna have to look at that. It's going to allow me to have my grapple. So looking at a grapple tangle for a short time overrides grenades with a free non-offensive grapple. And because I'm probably going to be running no grapple with the new Warlock Strand exotic, is that going to make... This also works with the Navigator exotic trace rifle. Does that mean I can now have a grapple and I don't have to waste my shackle grenade? Or if I already used it, I can have a grapple? That's just going to be non-offensive, so it's literally just for movement. Hitting an enemy with a grapple melee that wasn't free now creates a grapple tangle. So, if you're swinging and you hit someone and it wasn't the free one, it was just a regular one, it's going to create a grapple tangle at that point. So does that mean because they made the grapple tangle, I who doesn't have it can now actually come in and grapple in, and it's not going to be an offensive, but it's just kind of like a movement thing. Super now has a passive regeneration of 11, and the damage resistance is 13. All Hunter subclasses. Also, are these a preview? Oh no, this is just... Okay. Here we now have a Marksman Dodge ammo pickup buff that to make it more consistent, and a PvP only Gambler's Dodge nerf aimed at lowering ability spam and Hunter dominance in the Crucible. Looking at the data, Gambler's Dodge has a double usage of Marksman Dodge and has an outsized impact on Crucible kills per minute and win rate. In PvP only, when you use Gambler's Dodge, the melee energy you get back is now 35%. Oh, thank God. I'm sorry. Like, I get it. I know you guys want to use it a lot, but especially with some of the changes above, that would be absolutely broken. But now when you use Marksman Dodge, as an increased radius of 15. That's decent. Warlock. Starting with Solar. And for some reason they're showing Arc. And why isn't that the one from... isn't this the picture? This picture they're using, isn't that from the fucking um season where we were pirates, right? Yeah, because I see the Lexington thing here. So yeah, this was from the pirates. Why did they show that for? Solar, previously announced, with the changes to Don Koros. Daybreak will now do increase of 20% damage against combatants. Add an additional 5% if you have the Don Koros on. The projectiles now scorch targets by default, so you don't need to have Don Koros to scorch enemies. Unless you want that 5% bonus damage with your super. There's really no reason to really run Don Koros, unless you also want that melee energy stuff, but meh. Voidwalker, Nova Warp. Charging the primary attack now pulls them towards the Warlock. Increased primary damage. Dark. Uh-huh. You did not. Bungie, you did not just do that. Huh. Spicy. Oh. Oh. Boo. I just saw the next one. Nova Warp. Charging the primary attack now pulls enemies towards the Warlock. Increase primary attack damage against combatants by 15. So in PvP, this isn't really going to do much, but the fact that it's going to pull you. And the Vortex one will now repeatedly pull enemies during its lifetime. Okay, cool. Yeah, sure. This though? Dark Blink now reaches weakening Seekers. Arc, Stormcaller, Stormtrance. Increase the maximum sustained damage to 65%. Increase the landfall jolt duration to 16 seconds. Chaos Reach, increase the damage to 20%. And Ionic Sentry no longer blinds the user on creation. This is a solid change. Lightning Surge, prismatic aspect only. This will not change for the regular one. This is only, with this, reduce damage against players by 16%. Okay, so you can just use the other one. Got it. Stasis Shadebinder. Oh, this is a nerf. Winter's Wrath has never been about damage until now. We brought up the DPS to make it more competitive with other Roman supers. The Frostball adjustment is a PvP only change to compensate for the fact that the Warlock can now move while casting it. More on that below. Huh? What? Wait. Wait. Wait a second. Hold on. Okay. So the Shatter increased the Shadow Wave damage against frozen targets by 210%. So with Shadebinder, with Wrath Weavers, that's even greater. Frost Pulse, the class ability, reduced the player freeze radius to 5 meters. Now slows targets between 5 and 8 meters. Hold on. Wait. Okay. Strand. This change in needle storms from player feedback that it's difficult to use against bosses because needles are often wasted on non-boss commands and okay. Needles from Needle Storm will now prioritize bosses, mini-bosses, and champions over other enemies. All Warlock abilities. Healing Rift and Empower Rift, this is class ability only. Rifts can now be cast while moving roughly at half speed. Increase the rift radius from 3.75 to 5 meters. Empowering Rift, increase the melee and grenade recharge rate while standing in an Empowering Rift by 20%. In PvP only, the healing rate is reduced. A playlist increase that less allows warriors to during class and increase the class race size, made them difficult to deal with. We let this light touch while reducing the PvP healing rate, and we'll be monitoring the feedback. Why? Why? Is the healing like? I'll have to see how like this goes. Wraths can now be cast while moving, so it's not like your thing where like you have to be standing still. And with the increase to the radius, I mean, okay. So then I just have to make sure I have. So it's gonna be. Gonna have to test this because I have an idea, and I think a lot of other Void Warlocks that enjoy Nova Warp are going to be very interested in seeing this. I do like a lot all the changes here, except for this last one. I like this last one right here. Yeah, but this is prismatic only. Okay, remind you, prismatic only. So this is still going to do the damage against enemy players. And if you are running prismatic, Synthoceps and Necrotic will probably still do, relatively whatever. This is very interesting. So they just made Wrathweavers probably even stronger with this change to the base damage you do, and then on top of the increased damage you get from Wrathweavers. And then the Frost Pulse will freeze anyone at... So if there's people that are close to you or 5 meters out, they'll still be frozen. But anyone that's like between 5 and 8 meters from you, from that initial Frost Pulse, will just be slowed. Okay. And considering the fact that Rifts can now be cast while moving at roughly half speed. So, I mean, if you're just normally walking, you can just, oh, I got shot, Rift. Now, this is for the Healing Rift and the Empowering Rift. So, the Phoenix Dive thing on the Prismatic will just be whatever. The melee and grenade regeneration while you're in your Empowering Rift has been increased to 20%. That's good. In PvP only, the healing that you get back is only at 10% because of all these changes. Okay. I mean, sure. Sunbreaker. Impact damage now increases with range. This damage is purely additive. The base damage is unchanged. Impact damage now increases with range. So the farther that you throw it, the more damage it will do. It's purely additive. The base damage. So the base damage of it is unchanged, but it's going to do what shouldn't it do more damage the further it goes? So if you just like yeet that thing at a boss from far away, it will be okay. Void Sentinel Shield. Standing behind the shield now periodically reloads all weapons for 2.5 seconds. Now grants a Void Overshield to all allies behind the shield. Damage bonus while behind the shield reduced to 25. Blocking attacks now extends the super's lifetime. Blocking attacks and protecting allies now charges a shield throw damage. This puts a bar on your screen that charges as you block attacks and when allies are behind it. When charged, your shield throw throws more damage and resets the bar. So, this isn't a full return to the free reload days of old Lunafaction boots. Instead, it will reload... What? Using load makes sense. Rocket launches full advantage of this... Wait, what? Now reload all your weapons every 2.5 seconds. When using low magazine weapons like rocket launchers, this will require weapon switching to take full advantage of. It reloads all your ally weapons. So you can, like, do, like, let's say you had a rocket sidearm, then you had a regular weapon, and then you switched to a rocket, you had bait and switch. Fires it, okay, cool, put that away, go back to the other ones, it's going to reload them. And I think with the changes with Ursa Furiosa, that might be good too. Damage bonus while staying behind the shield is reduced, so it does less damage, but when you block attacks, you gain more super lifetime. And as you're blocking attacks and protecting your allies, because they're going to get a Void Overshield, you can throw out your shield and your shield will do more damage. Okay. Looking at Fist of Havoc's DPS, it could use damage boost, so we added a simple mini game to the attack to show it some love. Light attacks now increase the next heavy attack. So, if you do 2 light attacks and then do a heavy attack, it's going to do the heavy attack's going to do increased damage. Behemoth, Howl of the Storm aspect. When used during super, increase super energy cost to 15. With the recent Howl of the Storm changes have landed well, but it's dealing a little too much sustained damage in cases, outclassing every other ability in the game when used during super. Hence the one PvE nerf we mentioned earlier. So when you have if you use Howl of the Storm during your super, the energy cost now takes more of your super. Okay, this is a PvP only change to Banner of War. In response to players' feedback, the Banner of War's melee damage is too aggressive to fight against. Melee damage bonus against other players now scales with stacks instead of always being at full strength. Note, unarmed melee can now one-shot players at 2 stacks with 200 melee stat, or at 3 stacks with base stats. Here's a little buffs here for the community. Void grenades no longer suppress the user, as it increased detonation damage. Spike grenades will now attach to commands. Void fragments reduce the negative stat on Echo of Undermining to a negative 10. Echo Provision now grants 10 grenade stat. Echo of Exchange now grants 10 melee stat. Remove the negative stats from all other fragments except for Starvation and Persistence. Void had more negative stats than the other damage types, so we eased up on the penalties. Our goal for subclass build crafting is that there should be clear trade-offs without feeling punitive. Update the visuals to be slightly more visible in Crucible. Really? Okay. I mean, I'm not going to complain. Enemy effects now scales with the overload. We've added this to allow players to eyeball how much overshield an enemy has before deciding to engage. That's good. Lightning grenades will now attach to combatants. Flashbang grenades no longer blind the user, and they have increased detonation damage. Okay. Strand threadlings. Threadlings that lose their target before impact will land and look for another combatant instead of exploding. This will reduce the cases of your big gain of threadlings all explode on a single drag. The result is that they feel smarter and more alive. Are you sure you want to do that, Bungie? That's all, folks. Running Day is right around the corner. We hope you're excited. As mentioned earlier, we'll also have some changes and additions in Shadow and Order and beyond, so keep your feedback coming. Bungie, you've just made a very, very happy Coyote with about 3 and possibly 4 of my favorite little things. But I'm not gonna let you off the hook. Okay? I need to see stuff for Gambit. You hear me? I like these changes. I think they're cool. I don't like this one, but all the other ones, especially this one. Yeah. And then with Needlestorm prioritizing bosses, mini bosses, and champions over other enemies, I like. I'm going to see how those new boots work. I like this. I mean, there's probably some people that are going to be upset at this, but you know what? I don't care. Being able to run or walk and not like have your rift be larger is better. Having a 1.25 increase to the meters, I think, is good. Because that's what I feel. It feels like you can't really play smart as much as you want to with it, because your rift is like limited in size, and it feels like you know, when you're like trying to move to cover and you need your rift, the fact that you stop completely, the fact that you can just like move, pop it, and then like peek is better. So in response to this, I get this. This will probably just feel better. This with Wrathweavers is going to feel great. This with the change that you made to that, I think I'll probably go back to just regular Stormcaller. It's great. This getting an increase, especially with Geomags, is really cool. Maximum sustained damage bonus to 65%. Increase the landfall jolt to 16 seconds. So now this lasts longer. And then with the changes you're making to Stormdance's Brace, I like. This right here, yeah, get ready, because this would be very, very interesting to see in PvP. Dark Link now releases Weakening Seekers. Are you sure you want to do that, Bungie? Okay, we'll see. But with that being said, Red Faction, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll be live tomorrow for a full reaction to the Renegades dev stuff. I hope they do say stuff about Gambit, but I'm going to hold my breath on that. If you missed today's earlier live stream, you can go check it out in my live stuff. We stream with the Purple Faction and the Red Faction together, thanks to Restream. I am very interested to see how these changes are going to go on top of everything else. I do wonder kind of what we're going to see. I feel like the big things are hunters that are on solar. You guys got a lot today, okay? So even if you didn't get like a whole bunch of craziness in the armor changes and the weapon stuff, this makes up for it because you guys have a lot more utility. Warlocks were just gaining an increase to super damage. It looks like, and the ability to now be able to, you know, if we're moving out of cover, we can now cast our rifts and we don't just completely stop to cast it. And we'll now be able to move slightly and then have it casted, which I really like. It will lead to, you know, not feeling that like, oh my god, I need my rift now because my health is low, and then you just kind of stop and you still get shot at. You can kind of still move while you're casting it. So it's kind of just like, here's a rift. I wonder how the new boots are going to work, especially with Oldest and Strand. The changes with Frost Pulse and everything, that will be interesting. Considering the fact that it's going to be based around the center of the user, you cast it. So like if you're being chased and you run away, you can move and cast it. It'll freeze and slow anyone that's from the center so when you initially started the cast. So let's say like you do the cast and you slid, it's going to do it it's probably going to do it at the point of contact where you started the button input, and then the cast time will continue and all that. So at 5 meters, players will freeze. At 5.1 to 8, any players will just be slowed. So on top of having Wrath Weavers giving you not only giving you the frost armor, which I forget how much damage reduction frost armor does. That would be good. And only being slowed, not completely frozen, is a good thing. Not good for the Warlock, but good for anyone trying to fight the Warlock and they feel like they're just getting slowed. Titans, I mean, your super. A lot of this is just like super and aspect stuff. I do like the fact that Void feels like it's going to be less undermining for us. So all of these just being like general like changes. Echo of Undermining only takes away 10 from the stat, which I forget when that is. Remove negative stats from all other fragments except for Echo of Starvation and Echo of Persistence. I mean, oh, okay. Now you'll know when someone has how much overshield someone has left, which is a good thing. The changes to this and this feel very good. Let's see what else is there. I'm very interested here. I'm very interested here. This I'm upset about, but whatever. Enough of my ranting and rambling. Time to get this video because this is a half hour. Wow, oh freaking Lord. I laughed way too much at the change to Arc to Void Warlocks. So, Red Faction, with that being said, have a good one. I will see you tomorrow for the dev live stream, and I'll see you on Wednesday for Rivals. That being said, have a good one, everyone.